And hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is the Coverager Podcast. My name is Nick Lamparelli. I am in Coverager headquarters, podcasting headquarters in Naples, Florida. Just to make you all envious, it is officially 73 degrees here. So after this, I might go for a walk in my flip-flops. So don't at me, or you can. Let's have fun with it. We're going to have a pleasant conversation today talking about business insurance, specifically InsurTech's focused on the small business customer, and which has gotten a lot of attention over the last couple of years. And so there's a tremendous amount of activity taking technology that exists and packaging it up and using it in such an effective way that we can really get small business insurance to a high level. I have a group from a company where I love the name. You can see it on their shirts, B2Z. And I'm going to get to the backstory of that because I think that's interesting. But I love the name of it. Just kind of rolls off the tongue, B2C. But I have Stephanie, Yuri, and Kuldeep with me. And so welcome to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I start off all of these by allowing my panel to introduce themselves. So for the sake of the audience, I'm going to do the Brady Bunch order. I'm going to go beneath me right now, which is Stephanie, and then Yuri, and then Kuldeep. Stephanie, why don't you introduce yourself? Who are you and what do you do?
Thank you. I am Stephanie Blahut. I am the CMO of B2Z Insurance. I'm not the typical CMO. My background isn't very traditional. I've spent the majority of my career in digital marketing in particular. So I like to say that I build roads into a website and I overcome the barriers to purchasing through optimization. And that is really, I think, the most succinct way to explain what I do.
I love it. I love it. We're going to talk more about that. That's a big deal.
We internally call Stephanie as Digital Market Samurai. That's the internal name in the company.
Stephanie,
He's
those
right.
are
I am the
big
digital
shoes.
Samurai.
You know, there's not a lot you can climb up beyond samurai. That's kind of like the elite. So we're going to be expecting a lot of digital insights from here. So thank you for that intro, Yuri.
My name is Yuri Koshkin. I'm the CTO at B2Z, joined early on. Just at the beginning of the pandemic, we met up with Kuldeep and started discussing this idea, and I think it came out pretty good so far. And I come from the past in tech and spent at least a few years in InsurTech specifically, so pretty familiar with the subject. And here I am creating problems, solving problems, sometimes more created, sometimes more solved, ups and downs.
Hopefully netting more solved, but yeah.
Usually.
Yeah, that's still debatable.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Okay. And for the folks that are listening to this, I'm going to put on my Dr. Phil hat and dig into this a little bit more. So you'll see, stay tuned. Kuldeep.
Yeah. Thank you, Nick. Really appreciate that. Just to add on Yuri's background, he is being very humble on the podcast today. He has worked with some of the great technology companies, including Uptake here in Chicago. That's considered one of the first unicorn. I am envy from your 73-degree comment because we're sitting here in Chicago, Nick, and it's supposed to be a blizzard coming our way, and it's going to be a mess. So
that's why I moved.
One day I want to be in the other side of it and be in 73 degrees.
I won't even show you my shorts.
No, please.
All right. We don't have that luxury right now. Wonderful. Thank you so much. My background, very quickly, a serial entrepreneur, 25 plus years of experience, and We do have few people that have 25 plus years experience in the industry, and we stop counting after that, just to let you know, because we don't want to know you how old we are one way or another. But at heart, technologists, and for last 10 plus years have been an entrepreneur, mostly solving an interesting problem and giving a real solution. And insurance has been one of those domains. And B2Z is the second company within the insurance space. My other company before B2Z is in the commercial P&C, more on data and AI on the underwriting space. And we have taken that knowledge into B2G as well.
Okay, well, a question I think I ask everyone that comes here on the show is, why B2Z? Why does B2Z need to exist?
I'd actually
I think
like
that's a great question.
Piggyback off of something that Kuldeep just said. Insurance should be a solution. It shouldn't be a headache. It shouldn't be something that people, when they go to buy it, the first thing they think is, ugh, I have to go buy insurance. How awful. It's painful. And it shouldn't be that way. Insurance should really be a solution. So getting into why is B2Z different, I think it's because, mainly because we view it that way. We view insurance as a solution. And, the difference in us going to market is that we're not just going to market with a product, we're going to market with a service. And that service is really designed around bringing a better experience to not only the purchasing, but the use of that insurance. And eliminating pain points along the way, whether it's, in the buying phase while you're quoting, or eliminating the pain points you have in understanding your coverage, eliminating the pain points around filing a claim. That's where I think B2Z really differentiates itself, is that we will constantly be learning and constantly be improving that process. So it's not just B2Z as a product, B2Z as a service and a solution.
Kuldeep?
Wonderful. Yeah. Let me say how I haven't been in insurance for the longest time. At heart, I am a technologist. So I have a unique vantage point where I have known enough insurance for the last 6 years, but at the same time, I have a point where I can be objective about it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look, we could look at the taxi industry. You name an industry, it has been using technology and automation to give a better customer experience. In insurance, I think sometimes it's even hard to figure out who's your customer. Like many of the insurance providers at times don't know, is it the end consumer that bought the protection, or is it the agent, or is it the broker? Who's the customer? And with B2G, we are trying to bring back the focus on the customer. And I get this asked by many times by the industry experts, right? Who will say, so who you are? You're a broker, you're an MGA, you're a full stack, all the jargons that go out there. And I tell them, we are small business customer advocate. That's who we are at first. Whether you serve them as a broker, MGA, those are all, sort of technical details we can talk about, but we are their advocates. And this whole thing started where, being a founder of 3 companies, I've gone to get the protection for those businesses myself. And it's the experience which is at times not optimal, and I'm being nice there.
He's being very nice on that.
It's crap at times. And that has been sort of a sore point for the last 7-8 years that I've been dealing on the entrepreneurship. The previous company, their company name is Data Cubes, and this one is I started, so I could always use that name.
I think
looked at
most of our audience would be familiar with data cubes.
Yeah. So we look at this problem saying, could we use technology, data, and intelligence? And we did, and we created a solution for commercial P&C underwriting. And so that it's not a quote form, loss history, all those things that you need to do before you can give somebody a quote after 3 or 4 weeks. I think that worked for mid-sized businesses and large, but when it comes to the small businesses, it's still not an optimal experience at all. And that's what really drove the sort of genesis of B2Z. The name itself talks about, we want to create something Amazon-like experience. And I don't know if I'm sure folks know that Amazon is A to Z. So it's B2Z is nothing but A to Z for business insurance. That's how I like to say that. I think that's the essence, that's the core of B2Z.
Yeah, that's a great response. And I wanna, and maybe Yuri, this might be sort of teed up for you here. I think of technology, right, in terms of for insurance, because I think most folks would agree insurance isn't the prototypical product, right? It's not something people want to buy, right? So there's so the as the stuff that Stephanie you were talking about, there's that massive problem with that. Probably for 100 years, we're used to, I don't want to have to buy it, right? And so I think people have been hammering home for years, like we've got to make it easier for people to buy. I view technology as either simplifying the simplicity for people to find you and to buy from you, and then kind of coordinating that with the an underwriting framework where it's technology driven. There's some sort of accuracy in underwriting gives you some sort of advantage, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the case. But just that's where I see technology kind of leaking in. And so far, the majority has been done piecemeal, right? It's either been usually one or the other. And I think the majority has been on the front end, trying to make the application in the sales process easier. But then the back end is still very ugly sausage that's being made. Can you talk a little bit about your technological advantage? How are your technological philosophy when it comes to B2Z? How are you viewing the value that you can bring with the technology throughout those two pieces, the underwriting, but also marketing, sales, and distribution?
So I really like how you framed the question. So one of the starting points was that we know that there is very little technology built with online focus first. It was kind of the industry is backing into it right now. So as you said, front end might look pretty, but the back end systems are all spread out. Kuldeep won't let me lie. I think we spent probably 20, 30, 40 hours of meetings with a variety of partners and ended up not using any of the software. We decided to bite the bullet and write certain pieces that are critical, but we wanted them to work in a certain way. And we realized anything we take, it's a legacy system in the making. Even if it looks nice right now, within months or years, it will tie our hands, and we're going to be dragged down by that. Technology is supposed to enable people. It's supposed to solve problems. So what problems are we solving? People need to know what they need. So I came to insurance with absolutely zero knowledge about it a few years ago. And if you ask me, like, if I start a small business, what do I need to buy? I wouldn't be able to answer. I would have to spend time, research, read, probably call some agent, get advice, and then wait for weeks for quotes. I want to be able, through technology, to give all of this to the customer. They should be able to come in. They should be able to say who they are, what they do. We should be able to give them everything they need, ask them the smallest amount of questions possible, do the underwriting with precision only possible by fully automated underwriting system. which probably Kuldeep will talk about more later in terms of how that is beneficial to us as a company. We need to help guide those users. People outside of insurance don't know the jargon. They don't know the terminology. They don't understand what any of this means. And quite frankly, we're just focusing on customer. Everything to support them, guide them through the journey, explain what they need, explain what is covered. We spend tremendous amount of time even designing small things that kind of assist the user here and there, little pop-ups that say this is what it actually is. And
no, that's a great response.
I guess it's my answer.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, let me
Let me
add something.
You guys want to arm wrestle?
Ooh.
No, Stephanie is always a winner.
So I just wanted to follow up briefly to what Yuri said. So when I entered the pet insurance space about 5 years ago, it was very similar to what we see in small business commercial. It was very paper driven, legacy. The technology really wasn't there. Even the digital marketing piece, there are very few players even taking advantage of the digital marketing means to reach customers. The sites were very difficult to understand, the coverage piece. But overall, the customer experience was, the bar was pretty low entering the pet space, and bringing this idea of, how can we create a solution that isn't just, tech for the sake of having technology, but rather how do we actually solve customer pain points through the use of technology and have it evolve over time, has been pretty revolutionary in the pet insurance space. Now, moving over to commercial small business, it's very similar in that the customer buying trends tend to mimic personal lines. And so, as a small business owner, you don't have a procurement team doing due diligence on the right insurance product to go with and to govern that account. So you're doing that wearing many hats. And why should that be painful for you? To do something that's so fundamental to cover and insure your business. So here we are.
Yeah, Kuldeep.
Yeah. And I think that's a great point. So just to add that in talking about technology, right? Within our own platform, we are going with this high level principle that most of the time we are not going to ask more than 7 questions from our customers, right? And given where the industry has been and it still is today, that's a monumental challenge from a technology perspective. And I think, and Yuri and team solving that flawlessly. So I said he's being humble today on the podcast. So I was right about that part. But keeping that as an essence, and that goes back to what Stephanie said before, that we are not trying to sell as a bulky insurance product. Okay, that's the key difference. We are trying to give our customers a solution that they're looking for. So if a small business owner, if I need to run payroll, I can go online and get 3 or 4 payroll provider that will help me set up everything very quickly. Why I have to call agents and learn a legal jargon before I can get a $500 to $1,000 policy to maybe insure my coffee shop so that I can sign a lease and start it. And that's the challenge. It's been under mined by the legacy insurers because for them it's the premium, the product, right? The service component, I think, was more on the claim side as opposed to how you engage with a customer and how you give. That has been outsourced through brokers, and Whether brokers have done a good or bad job on that, I'm sure we can debate that for hours and hours, and I'm not going to go into that. But that's what we are taking control of. We are taking control of serving our customer ourselves and create an end-to-end experience. And that starts from reaching out to our customers on the channel, on their convenience, whether it's online, at the midnight when they have time. They don't have to call us during the day when their business is ready, or it's also backed by humans where they can talk to somebody. But on our website, on our digital, we have created something what we call a risk advisor or a customer advocate named DIA, which is a patented technology that's helping customers, not just a chatting thing, but based on our back-end digital intelligence, really helping them, hey, do you really need this coverage, right? And do you need, let's say, if you are a sort of wine and liquor shop, right, small, do you need sign coverage, which is kind of very cumbersome example. But these are the things that typically have been with the broker, right, or the agent. We are bringing that into the digital world. Now, I want to say one more thing there, Nick, about digital, and this has been sort of my point. People think that putting things online is digital, and I fundamentally disagree with that point, because you could take the cumbersome paper process and put online. It's not digital, and many of, I think, aggregators have done that, and I call that lipstick on a pig. I just couldn't find a better word for that, because what they're doing is, okay, I was asking 30 to 45 questions about your business on the paper. Now I'm going to ask the same 30 to 45 questions online. You still have no idea what the question means when you're getting the protection for your business, because protection really means appropriate rate plus appropriate coverage. Those are the two things intermingled together. And that's what you need to give to your customers. So we came up with this, our customer advocate DIA, which is intelligent enough to figure out, based on what we know about that customer, what are kind of coverage that customers needs to buy, and give that in a non-insurance jargon way to help them understand what they need.
Yeah. So that leads me to a couple of different questions. So first, that means that B2Z is powered by AI, correct?
I would say powered by digital intelligence.
Okay.
More encompassing.
Yeah.
Because you might be able you might be able to get some economic currency if you say powered by AI. You know, investors just like, fall over themselves. Oh my God, AI! But there's an intelligent aspect to it. So that gets to the big debate, right? That occurs, which is agent or not agent, and the challenges there. So with no agent, B2Z has you have a tremendous you have that high hurdle that you now have to go over, because for Stephanie's point, not only does she have to now go out and find that business and generate leads and have them come in, but you need to be able to hold them by the hand and walk them through this maze of insurance. What do I need? And I could tell you, even as an insurance expert, Avi and I have laughed about this on some of ours. Like, I've been stumped on some insurance applications. I've been stumped on some quotes. Like, I don't know the difference between these two, and I'm supposed to be an insurance expert. And so that's a big challenge, not going the agency route, right? So can you talk a little bit about those two things? Can you talk about the challenge of finding enough leads? Because that's generally what agents are the professional sales distribution for a lot of insurance companies. So now that's on your shoulders, but then also the complexity? Like, do you expect to have a suite of offering multiple BOP or workers' comp quotation systems? How are you going to think through their potential objections of like, okay, you did a good job of walking me through, but is this the right quote for me?
Looking for customers through digital marketing offers us a lot of advantages. One, it's pretty low cost to go to market using digital channels. And you can start to optimize almost immediately with the information that you gather from the different ad platforms, organically, through behaviors that you watch on the website. So there's all kinds of intelligence that's coming in from digital behaviors that we can then leverage to continue to evolve our product right from the get-go. And that helps us become more intelligent about finding our customers as well. So talking about leads and gathering leads from a digital marketing perspective, that is sort of the battle of looking top of funnel, working the channels top of funnel just to get out brand awareness and even industry awareness. If we take a step back, we know from our audience research that 70% of all small business owners are underinsured and 40% aren't insured at all. So there's a fair amount of industry awareness that has to happen as well, in conjunction with brand awareness, and then to continue to educate folks through that funnel until they finally, are ready to make their decision. We can do that through content. We can do that through DIA. Once they're on the site, we can help educate them through DIA. And that's why, I stay away from calling it just an AI chatbot. It's really the sum of all digital intelligence going into an experience, rather than we just have this chatbot and it will help you figure things out. And so, from a digital perspective, going to market with digital is really a no-brainer for us, because it just increases the value of our digital intelligence and allows us to evolve the back end just as much as we evolve the front end. So, and now I will.
So let's think it through what I said before, Nick, about who's your customer, right? So, and even before going there, I know in the last 8 or 9 months, we're not taking public transport, but before that, when you were traveling, when you landed at the airport, did you went outside and say, hey, let me hail a taxi. I need a taxi. Or did you take out your app and said, okay, Lyft or Uber?
Depends on the city.
And it depends on the city. Absolutely. Yeah. Agreed. But in most cases, your preference would have been, hey, if I can get Lyft or Uber, I go with that because the convenience and other things that you are getting with that. It's, I think, the same way. If you look at our customer segment that we are going after on the small business owner, over 60% of those small business owners are Gen X plus millennial. And if you look their buying habit, it looks how they interact in general in life, not just insurance. They're pretty digital savvy. They want to have things in a digital fashion. They want to have this in their convenience. They want to have it at their own terms. Price is not such a big deal for them. As long as you are not outrageously expensive, you are competitive. The convenience and getting things at their terms is an absolutely value to them. And that's the segment that we are serving with this. That's a very, very key point. Yes.
Just going a little further with that, because Kuldeep is absolutely right. They also see the value in exchanging some of that data for the convenience. So they're willing to give up some of that data so that they can find products that are more convenient and on their terms.
Yep.
Yes. And to be honest, digital versus agent, that part I think there's a lot of debate about that, right? I think what they are, again, trying to do is trying to fit sort of that sort of square peg in a round hole kind of deal. They are thinking those two things are competing. They're not. If you can enable your customer to get what they want to get digitally, they will go for digitally. I can almost put 2 cents I have in my pocket on that approach. Now, the question is, if I have to answer 60 questions and then I have to show multiple codes and let that coffee shop owner decide whether the terrorism coverage is important or not, it's a disservice to that customer, because if you understand that customer well, which we do through our digital intelligence, we show them just one code that we believe that's the best protection for that customer. And that's how we solve that problem. Now, having said that, adding a human in the process when needed by the customer is absolutely, we support that. No doubt about it.
I'd like to add to this is that we can see all of this coming up right now, and how we have folks who prefer convenience, but think about 5 or 10 years from now when the 15-year-olds are going to start their first small businesses. They are practically glued to their iPhone at this point. If it's not available as an app or a website, it's not a thing that exists. If you cannot text them, they don't exist. They're not going to be waiting for quotes for 2 weeks and filling out Accord 125 forms. I can bet another 2 cents on that.
and you know, I don't think there would be too many people that would disagree with that. Here's a question for you though. There are other young entrepreneurs that have also looked at this small business market and the size of it and how it does behave just like, in a way, like personal lines and how decisions get made and all of that. So one problem of being digital is that can be copied. Others can do digital too, and we've seen that now. There are other, just this year, have launched that are going to be these digital attempts to sort of service those particular markets. So in a digital environment, it's hard to have that relationship, right? Like so how do you differentiate yourself to be able to not only provide the solution, but to Stephanie's point, how do you give them that experience that's different than the other digital experiences that these other companies are saying, you know, hey, come to us. We can sell you insurance too. So how do you differentiate and position how you're going about it versus how they're going about it?
I can speak a little bit to the technology of it and the copying aspect. If we went the route that Kuldeep described and just took our favorite Accord 125 form for general application for business insurance and copied that as a form, anyone can come and copy this. That's for sure. We kept it simple on the front end and very, very complicated on the back end. And we've built feedback loops into our system to know which data sources we should trust, which data sources we should trust less, which fields on those data sources we should promote higher. So we're constantly learning, and the more business we do, the better we're going to actually become at doing this accurately, and our experience will only improve. So I'm not very concerned about the copying aspect, because anybody can, again, going all the way back, insurance is just answering whatever, 40, 50 questions. It's not hard on the surface. But, the ultimate goal, that nobody might ever reach, but the ultimate goal would be to shrink it all the way down to, a single search field, like one famous search site has, right? There is a whole industry built behind it. So this one little search field, it looks simple. Anybody can make a search field, but can anybody build what's behind it? So
yeah,
it's constant continuous improvement that needs to happen on the back end, constant thinking about this customer's experience, understanding where they fall off, why they fall off, what doesn't work, what they don't understand. About personal touches and relationships, we need to be there all the way. Everything that happens in the system has a little notification. It comes to your phone or it will come to your email. You know what's going on. You know your documents are ready. You know where you need to call. If you have a question, you can chat with us. If you call the phone number, CallDeep will probably pick up and start answering questions.
Well, that would be interesting.
It's very
Absolutely.
personalized.
You get the
it cannot be more personal than that.
When you get the CEO answering your call, like, yeah, you should buy sign insurance.
I'm not joking. He is a member of a support group, so he gets notifications when customers are requesting support. So occasionally somebody will run into CallDeep, and I actually hope that this is going to last for years, because then he can come back and give me trouble for whatever customers didn't like or didn't understand, and I will be motivated to come up with better solutions to those problems.
Yeah. I appreciate that. I think that's a very important part of it. Let me just address the copying part, and I will let Stephanie talk a little bit more on the digital and marketing side. So in Chicago, there is a company that sort of think themselves as the pioneer in the small business insurance, and I'm not going to name the name. And this is 3 or 4 years ago at DataCubes. I was persuading their CEO to be a little bit more modern. And they have digital, they have online. So I went through their process and printed out how many questions they asked. It was 26 pages. I printed those and took to the CEO. This is what you call digital? That's the fundamental problem, because it's like the same thing saying AI versus digital intelligence, right? Everybody can say, hey, I am AI based, and investors will come in and jump on it. And at times, not investor, not a founder even know what AI could be. Very general term, right? It depends how you really apply it. And people take advantage of the shiny thing. Okay, I'm going to just say, I'm doing AI, then I can solve the world problem. It's not the case. So if you do it properly to figure out what the customers really need and do it at scale, it's a hard problem. I'm just going to be very open about that. And let me give one example of that. Let's say I'm offering insurance to a contractor, and to figure out that whether that contractor works on the roof or not is the important aspect of it, right? Because it could change the whole risk that's bringing to it. Now, to do that from a digital perspective, I need to go all the thousands of counties, get the data for each and every permit that has been filed there, right? Then I take that information with all the commercial buildings out there. Then I take millions of contractors out there and collate that information to find that needle that Joe the contractor, is this contractor working above or on the roof? That is what is digital intelligence at scale. And copying that is not easy. It's a monumental challenge. People ignore that, saying, well, I can just collect data. I can get data from this source and that source. You can get data, but that data is not optimized for your underwriting and perspective. And that's where the gap is. This is where people just don't understand. This is why the name came B2Z, because Amazon gives you real digital. That means it takes the information, synthesizes it, gives you better customer experience. Yeah, that's what we're trying to bring to the small commercial space.
You know what's interesting about what you've done is that you just started a few months ago, right?
Our official launch was mid-November.
But the company started just a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
It's after COVID lockdown. Yes.
Which is amazing, right? Because having gone through it and having seen several companies gone through it usually takes years to go through that. Now, you have to walk a tightrope when doing something like that. I'm curious as to what you think helped you in getting up to speed, because you're offering BOP coverage through Crum and Forster and workers' comp through employers. Those are not little insurance companies. Those are big stakeholders who probably have significant vetting processes as well. Talk about how were you able to get up to speed and go live so quickly?
Well, so a couple of things I would say. One is thanks to Yuri and his family for overnight time. That is like he works 28 hours out of 24. So let's do that. Let's talk about the process working with insurance companies, right? And it could, for many, what I have heard in my life is it takes 6 months to 1 year before things can get started. Here we are, generally our appointment processes, and this is where we have rejected more insurers than we have accepted to work with, because we have very high standard in terms of what digitally those insurers can do, right? Because again, for us, it's the customer experience. And if that doesn't fit in the customer experience, we are not going to build the sausage in the back end to give a better experience in the front end. We want to make sure our partners are as digital savvy as we are. Our appointments typically are few weeks, to be honest. And that really comes from the team's depth experience in insurance. So just within this team, in B2Z, we have like 125 plus years of insurance experience. And that we are not counting Stephanie, myself, and Yuri. I'm talking about our actuaries, our CFOs, our insurance product guys. Like some of these appointments that we're talking about, our team knows their CEOs well. So we are not going through, okay, we are this new smart entrepreneur out of garage kind of deal. We understand the technology well, but at the same time, we understand the challenge of insurance really well. And what I have seen in last 6 years in the insurtech space, especially, either you are a smart technology guy or you are very experienced on the insurance side. And in the first case, once you are sort of witness with all the reality of insurance, you don't talk about technology anymore. And the other side, it takes a while again to fit the technology into the existing insurance space. And that's where things break.
Yeah.
What we have done is take insurance and really simplify it so that it can be delivered digitally. And that's why we select very few partners to work with. And we integrate deep with those partners. I hope that answered the question.
Of course, yeah. Stephanie, Yuri, you want to add anything to that?
Well, I think Kuldeep summarized it well. Appointments were very easy because, Joe knew Bob and they used to sit in the cubicle next to each other a decade ago or 2 or 3. And
well, that helps, right?
It definitely helps to cut through the bureaucracy.
It's a disadvantage, right, for a lot of insurtechs who are pure technology players who potentially see this opportunity, but they don't have any insurance contacts. So that first meeting is cold, and that insurance professional who they're looking to get capacity from, has to do their vetting process. And if you have relationships in the industry, that first meeting's not cold. It goes a little easier.
We worked together for a decade,
Pretty easy.
Good knowledge, right?
But it highlights a good point, though, that Kuldeep has made a few times when he talks about the team he put together. It was very intentional to bring folks together who had deep tech or even insurtech knowledge, digital marketing, and pairing that with deep insurance knowledge, so that we weren't either too insurtech or too insurance, but really the best of.
Yeah. And I've had conversations with other insurtechs about this that, have been fairly successful. I'd like to get your feedback on that as well. What is the culture like? And to me, what I have seen is that you kind of need both sides to push on one another. I've seen a lot of technologists who have come in and they're just like, oh, we're just going to start breaking everything, and the insurance people pull their hair out. It's just like, you can't do that. It's against the law. Like you can't do. They're not going to sue you. They're going to lock the door and arrest you. Like, it's that bad. But how do you? There's insurance professionals who will say, oh, you really can't do that, but they don't have a rationale for it. And then when the insurtech's pushed, they realize, no, the regulators will let you do that. You just have to ask for it. And so what is the comfort zone between the yin and the yang between the insurance side and the technology side?
I think it's extreme amount of collaboration, really. The team is very open to work together. We came up with this very complicated rocket science type of classification system to future-proof ourselves and eventually build it into this, assistant to be able to predict what class you are likely to be, because this is one of the biggest pain points for the customer.
Yep.
We had to spend probably tens of hours in conversations, meetings, building out the system, building out a management front end for it, and putting all the pieces together for it to make sense, because it's quite important to properly classify the customer and then transform that into the data that our partners want to actually see. So I really, from the tech team, I can say we know we can always rely on our insurance folks to tell us what we can do. And if we reach a dead end in something, we usually bring Cole Deep, and he is the best at pushing the boundaries a little bit and trying to find if there are ways to convince regulators to do something new.
I'm pretty easy. If you buy me beer, you get the decision you want.
Seems reasonable.
It's always it's always good to keep in mind there's no growth in the comfort zone, right? So
yeah.
We have to push and pull each other.
Okay, so my final two questions are about the comfort zone.
Oh,
Stephanie.
Great.
Yeah. So
my favorite topic. So glad that you brought that up.
You just went live. Okay, congratulations, because that is, having done it a couple of times now, I know how difficult it is to go from zero to go live. And then you start at zero again, so it's kind of painful to watch the clock tick.
Yeah.
But now you got this balancing act. So to me, it's economies of scale in insurance are really when you hit that threshold where the law of large numbers start taking over, where every new piece of business only marginally adds to the risk, but you get all of the premium. And that's where you start hitting the sweet spot, and it's you start getting some significant compounding effects. So as a startup, having gone through this, I've been on that tightrope, kind of trying to balance growth versus losses and trying to balance those, because if you get too many losses to start, the capacity may dwindle away. But if you don't get the growth, you're going to lose the confidence of them. And so you're trying to go about balancing that. So can you talk about that? Because my experience watching the insurtech field is that they have been willing to sacrifice losses in order to get market share and some growth. But I feel like the tide's turning, so I'd like to get your feedback on how how long is your stick on your tightrope?
Okay, so let me address one point about the comfort zone and the culture that we talked about. Our insurance folks within the team call Yuri magician, and what that means is I tell him my problem and he does the magic and it happens automatically. So that's the kind of collaboration that we are having within the team. But having said that, absolutely there are differing opinions, and that's the whole point of it, because I think even the insurance folks that we have in the team, very excited. I mean, if you talk to our actuary, he will say, at times I'm ashamed that I spent 25 years in this industry and not done enough to improve how this product and this solution is being delivered.
Yeah.
Right. And it's true in many sense. And I have a tremendous amount of respect of those folks, because insurance is not that where you can figure out, here's the widget, you take it. It's at times crystal ball that you have to figure out properly to make sure you can do it profitably.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would tell you that my view is that I think the digitization of insurance has been very unsettling to a lot of folks, but those are not dumb people. They're actually very, very smart people who have been operating a machine that's been rusty, and they've been, putting oil here and there and duct tape and kind of keeping that thing moving. But that makes them very smart. It's just this digitization thing is requiring them to pick up the train and move it on a different set of tracks. And it's like, that's not going to work.
No.
Yes, and I think you absolutely put the nail on the head of that problem. So let's talk about growth versus sort of profitably doing things, right? And in sort of hindsight, everything is 2020, right? In 5 years, perhaps I would have a much better answer for you than I have today. But if you look at a couple of things to think about that, and then we'll talk about how we compare with other insurtech. So the background of the team is we have experienced people who are insurance, who are from the data, digital intelligence, marketing, technology. I have been doing data and intelligence for P&C underwriting as part of DataQs for almost 4+ years. Part of it, and I've seen sort of every variation you can think of, where even a company that's delivering food was underwritten as a mail delivery carrier. Okay, now, and was done by a big insurance company that's in Chicagoland, $1 billion company. And for a food delivery company that just went IPO. So now you can imagine how this could go wrong at times. But coming back to B2Z, what we are looking at small business insurance, right? And that's our focus. That's what we do, nothing else. If you look at that, there is a limited price discretion. Okay, it cannot be that a coffee shop guy, one insurance company is giving them $10,000 policy and another one is doing $500. It's just not the case. The variation is not there. And the competition is mostly based on what kind of customer experience you're giving and what is your process efficiency. And when you talk about the process efficiency and the customer experience, that's where some of more established players in this space, their processes have been designed typically, and I'm not saying this is true for everybody, but typically where it was for intermediated market, maybe medium or large size customer, and that has been retrofitted for the small business insurance. And they're putting the duct tape on that.
I've seen that.
Again and again. Now, when you take some of the other insurtech companies, they have come on it totally different and saying, okay, I'm going to serve a maybe $200 policy or $500 policy. I want to do it digitally. I don't want to touch it, kind of deal. The challenge with that is that the expense you are incurring to do that become out of control. So on a $100 million premium, our target is of expense 30 to 35%. Some of those companies are running 135. There's a reason for that, because they are investing heavily on the growth, not looking in terms of, okay, how do I control my expenses? A couple of ways we are addressing that problem. One is our typical customer is 2 times higher in terms of the policy than some of the other insurtech that we're talking about. We are using data intelligence. We are using efficiency. We are using tech to make sure to control that expense. I mean, to be honest, it's not a rocket science. It's just expense plus losses. That's what it is in insurance.
Yeah.
As long as you can control those two things.
What is a typical customer? Who are you aggressively going after?
That's a great question, and I believe Stephanie can really answer that much better than I could.
So I will preface this by saying our chief actuarial officer likes to refer to the personas as not going after a class code, but after a business, after a certain type of owner of the business. And he's spot on. It's obviously we have our generational targets, right? Kuldeep has talked about Gen X and millennials and their propensity towards tech adoption, that value exchange that they make between privacy and ease of use.
Yeah.
So that's certainly a part of it, but it's also a very owner involved small business. That if we're going to talk specifics, employees less than 25 employees, does under 6 million in sales and less than 3 locations. I mean, that's sort of our sweet spot. It's not too small. It's not too big. It's sort of just right. But
it could be pizza places, contractors, laundromats.
Yes, it's a variety of businesses. It's not sort of limited to we're only going after, say, contractors, or we're only going after startups. It's pretty all encompassing.
Yeah.
But there is there's sort of that sweet spot for us, and those are the people we want to connect with.
And you're using data and technology to so that's like just the first filter, and then you're filtering down even more to sort of segment out the specific segment within those groups that
Right.
you think especially can make use of your product and solution.
Right. And if we take this, even into sort of the digital marketing ability to understand audiences and then create lookalike audiences and go after those folks who sort of mirror your current customer base, and you look for different interests and behaviors and certain profile specifics, you can create an audience of folks that you go after with messaging that looks like that.
Yeah.
So you can really refine how you target individuals to bring them the right product.
So let me just give one example how our digital intelligence sort of driving it, right? And that's more on the loss ratio right now. So expense we talked about on the loss ratio. So let's say you're offering to wine and liquor shops, right, the protection.
Mm-hmm.
We know exactly based on the zip code, what are the sort of chances of theft or sort of vandalism in that place, right? We know that a certain annual revenue that's coming from liquor is a sweet spot of XYZ coverage, right? It's not that we are going to give the same coverage whether you're sending for 100,000 or whether you're sending 5 million of those things. We also know is the owner still involved in that business, because that's an important aspect
Mm-hmm.
for us. And we know all those things up front. We're not asking them about those things. So we know our customers already who we want to reach out to. And we also know what those customers want, because one of the things I will be that in just like food delivery, like DoorDash and Uber Eats and others, there is a higher now pattern where the liquor also being delivered, but that could be a different risk altogether. So we understand all those details to go after those customers. We are not going after those customers in vacuum, and that's the key part of it. Yeah. To understand that customer upfront, to give them the protection that they need and the experience they need. So if I were to summarize, B2Z is team of experts from insurance, marketing, technology. It's data intelligence that's done at scale. It's understanding of the customer and delivering that as a solution. I think that's how we are looking to win this market. And we are out there to get the work. That's what we are here at B2Z. We are fired up.
Well, then tell us. Let's peek around the corner. 2021. You're currently in 3 states offering workers' comp and a BOP product. What's in store for 2021?
A couple of things, right? So what I'd like to say, instead of just offering the product, I like to say, here is my customer and what I need to offer my customer. So some of the things that we have looked at talking about, okay, cyber is one of the things that is becoming more prominent as we are going more and more in the online sense. So and some of the business owners don't even consider or know about it. And so we are looking at that to do it in such a way that it's a similar experience and you don't have to give like the security audit of 300 pages that you don't know what your firewall looks like kind of deal. So that's in the horizon. Expansion in many different states is on horizon. Expansion of the team is in horizon. What we are also looking as well, and from a base solution to a small business owner, combine all those things together as one and really compete on that particular one with anybody else. So it's like, okay, you are, accountant. We know you are accountant and we know exactly what you need. It's customized for you. You go get it. You don't have to worry about it at all.
Yeah.
So there's a product enhancement. There's certainly team enhancement. There's a rollout that's in process, and we believe by early 2022 we'll be in all 50 states. But again, it's the customer experience is the forefront of it. There has been talks heated debate between Yuri and I at times where like, no, we need to ask this question from the customer. There's a certain aspect of it, whether it's from regulation perspective or anything. My thing is, let's shut down the shop if you have to ask this question. We are not asking those questions. Let's figure out from our data and from our technology how we can really answer that question without asking from the customer. Because customer might not even know the answer to that. So there's just, for reference purposes, you are saying, okay, I asked the customer. So if the losses come, then I can point out and deny the losses because customer answered this, because customer might not know it. So that's how we are fundamentally differing in the marketplace on the service and the customer experience than anybody else out there.
So I think we have this challenge of standing out in the sea of sameness, right? Which every product or service really faces that same challenge, but especially online because it's very crowded online. We're up against companies that have a longer history, much bigger budgets. So standing out as a late entrant in the space is definitely a challenge. But we have this opportunity before us to meet people where they are at in their buyer journey. And for some, that may be even before they know they need insurance. So if you think about the way content is positioned, tips for starting a crafting business, one of those tips may be that you need to buy insurance. So it's before you even realize that you are going down this route that you're going to need to think about insurance. So, and with the growing number of entrepreneurs that are coming out of this pandemic, where people are realizing that they'd rather not stay in the corporate world, but rather go out and be their own boss and create that product or service they've always wanted to create. We have, there's a bit of a bubble there, right? So we have this unique opportunity to get in front of folks. And that comes back to what Kuldeep said, which is the guiding light for us is the customer experience, and that our decisions at every step have to take a look at, is this going to enhance the customer experience, or is this something we want to make, internally? Would that make our lives easier, or does it make their lives easier?
Yep.
So that is, I think, the arbiter question, right?
So I got one final question. What's the, for Kuldeep and Stephanie, what's the average number of hours Yuri will work per day? 20, 24, 20?
I'm starting to think that Yuri may actually be the personification of Dia. I don't think he ever sleeps.
He's got a bed like that. I think his chair folds back into a bed. So Yuri, we're joking. Yuri, we're joking. Thank you to the B2Z team, Kuldeep, Yuri, Stephanie. It was a pleasure discussing this particular aspect. I always feel like I learn something new, and congratulations on getting up and getting started so quickly and going live. We're coming into a new year, and I do. Listen, this business is uncertain, but I do appreciate someone who's so focused on, like what you said, Stephanie. Does this benefit us, or does this benefit the customer? And having that focus on that, it's about the customer. You just don't see that a lot in insurance. So I very much appreciate that. So thank you to all three of you for coming on.
Thank you for having
Nick.
us.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah. So for everyone that's listening, please subscribe if you haven't done so already. And the transcription and the links to B2Z and all three of my guests will be on the show notes. And we're still in pandemic time. So wash your hands, wear your mask, be good to one another. And for everyone, when you're seeing this, have a great, happy new year. Let's get 2021. Let's kind of reverse what happened in 2020. My name is Nick. For Kuldeep, Yuri, and Stephanie, thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident